Hi, I'm Karina, and I did something that's still hard for me to talk about. Have you ever tried to take the easy way out to get out of trouble? Well, in my case, I took it to the extreme, and it blew up in my face. I used to babysit for the family down the street. They had a 4-month old, Emma, and a toddler, Jace. I always felt a little nervous about babysitting, but the first couple of times went pretty well. Emma was a good baby, and well, Jace was wild, but we got along okay. The parents had warned me that Jace was in a stage where he was hitting and throwing things at people, and that I should tell them if he ever got out of hand. One day, I left Emma on the changing table, just for a second, I swear, while I turned around to get baby powder. I heard the most awful thud, and when I turned around, Emma was on the floor. She'd rolled off the table. I've never been so scared in my entire life. Emma wasn't crying, just laying there. She moved her arm, so I could tell she was still conscious, but all I could think was that maybe I'd brain damaged her. Maybe she had an internal injury. I was terrified. She did start to cry then. I picked her up as carefully as I could and rocked her and whispered to her. I started to cry too, thinking she'd never stop. Finally, she quieted down, and I looked her over. At first, I was relieved. No visible injuries. Then I turned her over and saw a large bruise on her tiny head. I panicked again. How would I explain this to her parents? They'd kill me. I thought about calling my mom. She'd know what to do. But what if she blamed me? What if I got in huge trouble? Could I get arrested for this? Jace toddled in. He started babbling at me. He didn't say a lot of actual words yet, just da-da and stuff, and trying to hit me with a foam sword from his toy box. I was already so stressed about Emma, I couldn't handle Jace's wildness. But then, I got an idea. When the parents came home, I was ready. I showed them Emma's bruise and told them I was so sorry, but that while Emma was in her swing seat, Jace had hit her with one of his toy trucks. The mom looked shocked. Hard enough to bruise? Did he mean to? I don't know, I said. My back was only turned for a second, but the dad started looking Emma over. I think she's okay, I said. She cried a little after he did it, then quieted down. We'll get the pediatrician to look at her tomorrow, he said. The mom glanced at her husband and then back at me. We've been worried about this. We think Jace might have some issues with his development. We kept hoping he'd grow out of it. We've never known him to be violent towards his sister, though. I was scared they'd suspect I was making it up, so I went on. He's done it a few times, I lied. Sometimes he'll come up to her and try to hit her for no reason. And sometimes he just stares at her. I can't explain, but it's creepy. And one time I asked him if he liked his sister, and he yelled, "No!" All of this was just pouring out of me. I didn't know how to stop. My only thought was that I had to make sure they 100% believed Jace was guilty, not me. Why didn't you say something before? The dad sounded horrified. I didn't know if it was normal for toddlers or not. I mean, you said he's in a stage where he hits people. But he's always been so good with Emma. The mother looked truly scared. We'll have to get him into therapy. Thank you for telling us the truth, Karina, the dad said. I left the house shaking. I had lied to them. Now, Jace was going to have to go to therapy, and he hadn't even done anything. They would have taken him anyway, I tried to tell myself. They were already worried about him. But I couldn't escape the guilt. It gnawed at me for days. I could barely eat or sleep. I don't think I can explain how I felt. The next time they asked me to babysit, I pretended I was busy. The next time, too. My mom finally confronted me. Why haven't you been taking babysitting jobs?" "I'm too busy with school," I replied. "I saw your midterm grades. For someone who's so busy with school, your grades are dropping. Is something wrong?" "No!" I snapped at her. "Just stay out of my business." The next day in school, I threw up. I hadn't seen it coming. One minute, I was a little queasy. The next, I was running to the bathroom. I kept seeing that awful bruise on Emma's head. I finally took another babysitting gig to get my mom off my back. When the parents came home, I said Jason tried to hit Emma again, but I'd stopped him. I can't explain why I lied again. It was like the more I added to the story, the more it seemed true in my mind. Jace hadn't tried to hit Emma, but he was always trying to hit me with his toys. And wasn't that bad enough? He probably would hit Emma if she was closer in proximity to him. When I babysat again a few weeks later, I made up a story where Jace had brought rocks in from the outside and tried to throw them at his sister. "So, Karina," the mother said, "we were thinking about putting Jace on medication for ADHD since it seems like the therapy is not making him any better." Without thinking, I immediately agreed and said that it sounded like it would be a good step. But instead of looking worried, like they had in the past, the parents looked suspicious. "Come into the kitchen, Karina," the mom said. "I want to talk to you." I followed her into the kitchen, my heart pounding. She gave a deep sigh. "My husband and I were shocked by what you told us about Jace, so we got a nanny cam. It's in that teddy bear on the mantle." My breathing got shallow as panic rose in me. "Karina," she said, "Jace never went outside and got rocks. You and Emma were here the whole time until she went to bed. Jace never tried to hurt her." I nearly burst into sobs as all the guilt and shame and fear of the past few weeks hit me at once. But some part of me was defensive too. The part that had started to believe my own stories. That Jace was dangerous, out of control. "He did go outside," I tried to tell her. "He was..." "Karina, I want you to tell me honestly." Her eyes were wet with tears, but her voice was firm. "Has Jace been trying to hurt Emma?" I wanted to tell another lie. It would feel good to tell another one. "Yes," I said. "I'm being honest." The father got his phone out and showed me the tape. He said that they kept an eye on Jace for the whole day, and they know for a fact that he didn't do anything. I froze. I couldn't reply. They kept asking me why I was lying, and I simply had no answer. I just enjoyed it. I don't remember exactly what happened after that. I ended up at home, and the next day I stayed in bed. My mom kept telling me that everything would be all right, that the neighbors knew Emma's fall had been an accident. But I could feel that my mom was treating me differently. And a few days later, she said she wanted me to see a counselor. "You think I'm crazy?" I burst out. "No, honey, I don't. But I just want you to talk to her." I did go. The counselor and I discussed pathological lying and how the blurring of reality and fantasy, the sense that it would feel good to lie, could signify pathological tendencies in me. It sounded so horrible. But I've continued to go to counseling, and I'm getting better at recognizing those tendencies. I wrote a letter of apology to the neighbors, but they still haven't responded. There are days when all I can do is close my eyes and dig my nails into my palms and wish I'd never told that first lie. My mom says I may have to live with the guilt for a while. It's hard, but I know the fact that I feel guilty at all is a good sign. It means that I want to get better, and I'm going to keep trying.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann, and I can't believe that someone stole my identity. I mean, I'm so incredibly average. I don't get bullied, but I don't get noticed. I'm good at school, but not great. The only thing really notable about me is my messed up family. My mom and dad had an ugly divorce. Then my mom married my stepdad, Kent, after dating him for 4 weeks. Kent's hated me from the start. He's got this annoying, deadbeat son named Leo. He's always comparing the two of us. Like, he wants to find some way Leo's better than me. Good luck. I may be average, but Leo is nothing. Recently, on my birthday, Kent and I got into a screaming fight because I caught him snooping in my room. My mom backed Kent up, and she was so embarrassed to see me acting like that. I bit my tongue to keep from screaming that she never should have married a guy she'd only known a month. I told this girl I used to hang out with, Kayla, what had happened. Big mistake. She spread it all over the school that my stepdad was a weirdo. I'd beat her for a spot on the volleyball team, so I guess she was still mad or something, but that had mostly blown over, I thought. Imagine my shock when one day Kayla shoulder-checked me in the hall and called me a name. I wanted to ask what I'd done, but I was too shocked. Then, in algebra, people kept staring at me and whispering. Then this guy named Ben came up to me and was like, "For the record, your nose isn't exactly small either." Okay, first of all, ouch. Second, I had no clue what was going on. "What are you talking about?" I asked, but he just turned away in disgust. My whole day was like that. I finally saw my friend Becca in 7th period and told her how weird everyone was being. She said, yeah, I think your social media has been hacked. I got on my accounts and saw all kinds of posts from me about my classmates, Ben's big nose, Kayla's skanky outfits, and about myself, saying that I was going to clubs I'd never gone to, drinking and partying, that I was making out with guys I'd never even heard of. To say I was stunned was an understatement. Surely nobody really believed this was me. But I guess when nobody notices you, they don't know anything about you, so they believe what they see on the internet. "It's Kayla," I told Becca. "She's such a jerk. I can't believe I ever hung out with her." "But why would Kayla make fun of herself if she hacked your account?" Becca asked. "To make herself seem like a victim." I could have strangled Kayla. I, the girl who never got noticed, was ready to make a scene in front of the whole school. But Becca urged me to wait. She told me to report the hacking to the social media platforms, but their form letters said they'd respond in 24 to 48 hours. Meanwhile, Kayla was wreaking havoc. I tried to do damage control. I had to create new accounts to replace the ones I'd been locked out of, so I could tell people the other me wasn't really me. Kent found me at the computer after midnight and got all mad like he always does, saying that at least Leo uses his computer time responsibly. I wanted to snap back at him, but I know I'll be out of here soon for college, so I should just ignore him and his stupid son. I tried to explain there was an emergency, but he just told me to get off the computer so he could use it. The next day, more people were mad at me. A few believed the hacking story. "You were never like this before," someone said. But the more vocal people really thought I said those awful things. Or they didn't know whether to believe it or not. They just wanted to create drama. And boy, did they. In 6th period, I got called into the principal's office. But when I arrived there, it wasn't just the principal. The police were there too. I started to sweat, not sure what could be going on. The principal pulled up my hacked IG account and showed me a picture I'd posted of a bomb and the caption, "What I want to do to my school." "That wasn't me," I said desperately. "Someone hacked my accounts." "We have to take this very seriously," the principal said, letting the police take over. I was so shaken up when they were done questioning me, I could barely breathe. As I left the office, I saw Kayla in the hall, smirking at me. I made it halfway home before I started to cry. At the house, Leo was waiting for me. "What is your problem?" he demanded. "Everyone keeps asking me why my stepsister went psycho." I pushed past him and locked myself in my room. I was relieved to find some of the SM platforms had locked my accounts until the issue was resolved. But the damage was done. I got a call from my first choice college, which I'd already gotten into, asking me to explain my investigation by the police. I tried, but I was worried all my stammering just made me sound guiltier. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, my mom and Kent knocked on my door, saying Leo had shown them my social media pages, and demanding to know if I really did drugs, if I'd really threatened to blow up my school. Well, my mom demanded to know. Kent was sure I'd done it. "You can't take his side," I told my mom. "You can't actually believe him." "I don't know what to believe," my mom said. "You haven't been yourself lately." I realized she was talking about my birthday when I'd screamed at Kent. but I'd just been so mad at him for snooping. The next morning, I was a wreck. I hadn't slept in 2 days, and I was terrified that my life was ruined. I saw Kayla standing in the hallway talking to her friends, and I marched up to her. "You hacked my accounts!" I shouted. Her expression went from surprise to anger. "You called me a slut," she said. People were starting to stare. "Is this about the volleyball team?" Her eyes blazed. "You think I hacked you because you got on the volleyball team? That's pathetic." People started chanting, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" Without thinking, I shoved her. She shoved me back, and soon a teacher was breaking us up. We both got sent to the office and written up, which didn't help the school's opinion that I was a psycho. I ran home so fast I got there earlier than usual. Kent was on the computer, so engrossed he didn't seem to hear me come in. Then my heart stopped as I saw what he was doing. Designing a profile on a social media site, using my picture. "What are you doing?" I asked. He whirled to stare at me, and clearly, even he couldn't think of an explanation. I was just... He tried to X out of the browser, but I raced over and grabbed the mouse. "It was you," I said, looking over at what he was doing. "You hacked my accounts!" Kent's face grew red with fury. "You think you're so great. You deserve to be taken down a peg or two." My mom came in and asked what was wrong. I showed her. What happened next was chaos. Everyone was shouting. Kent finally yelled at my mom, "You think your daughter is better than my son. I had to show you that she wasn't." Silence. Then my mom said, her voice deadly, "You stole my daughter's identity to make Leo look better by comparison." The next thing I knew, the front door was slamming. Kent was gone. My mother broke down in tears, hugging me and saying sorry over and over. "I'm so sorry I brought him into your life." Things have been rough in my house since then. Kent and Leo moved out. My mom and I are both trying to get past the trauma of realizing Kent wasn't who he claimed to be. Things have been straightened out with the school and with my future college, but I'm still finding it hard to trust people. My classmates notice me now. The whole story made its way around the school. Some of them are really sympathetic, but some of them tease me. Surprisingly, Caitlin's been one of the sympathetic ones. I'm trying to look forward to college and a future where I can start fresh. I just want to be average again.
Thanks for